Hello, everyone, and happy April to you, and welcome to the Midwest BDC. Every Day is Earth Day podcast, and today we're here to uplift some members of our coalition who are active in the environmental and climate justice movement, specifically focused on building decarbonization. And so the podcast is centered around lifting up members and supporters and experts in the field and the work you all are doing and that we are doing in the Midwestern states. And we want to continue to educate viewers on opportunities, the threats currently due to climate change and environmental racism, and of course, any call to actions that they may have. And so our guest today is Madeline Semanisin, attended the University of Oregon, where she earned a bachelor's degree in environmental studies and a minor degree in geography and nonprofit management. Yay. And so in 2020, she graduated from Sturm College of Law at University of Denver. After law school, she was awarded an Equal Justice Works Fellowship and a staff attorney position at Great Rivers Environmental Law. Her focus was on working with environmental justice communities who were experiencing lead contamination in their schools and communities. And she is a founding member of the Missouri Filter First Community Coalition, which spearheaded the passage of the Get the Lead Out of School Drinking Water Act in Missouri. In addition, she worked on energy issues before the Missouri Public Service Commission, and she is based in St. Louis, Missouri. Currently, she works for Natural Resources Defense Council, and she is also active in our coalition. So we love to welcome Madeline to our Everyday is Earth Day Coalition podcast. And so, of course, we would love to tell you about the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, which was started back in 2019 to combat climate issues in buildings and to get fossil fuels out of buildings before 2050. Our focus states are the Midwest, of course, but, to be specific, it's Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and Ohio. And so we were founded to have an emphasis on equity, the HEMIS principles for democratic organizing, the climate justice principles, and centering our work around the people who have been impacted by energy burden and environmental racism. And so, Madeline, please tell us about yourself. What does Earth Day mean to you in an everyday context?
Thanks, Marnese. And it's really great being here. I really love working with the Midwest BDC. And so when I think of Earth Day, I think it's a time to reflect on past successes of climate justice advocates and celebrate their accomplishments that has made our world a better, safer, and healthier place. And it's also time to reevaluate how we're showing up in the environmental movement and making sure it's as intersectional as possible. So that's including centering racial justice advocates, housing justice advocates, Indigenous voices, public health advocates, and quite frankly, moving those people to leading the conversation and leading the next phase of the climate movement to make sure no one is left behind as we re-envision this future and re-envision this climate. So it's a time to celebrate where we're at, but also push forward with a more equitable lens.
I appreciate you saying that. So, I'm going to pivot a little bit because you said something important, equity. What does that really mean to you? Because that's a buzzword we know nowadays. So what does that mean to you in the context of climate change, building decarbonization?
Of course, yeah, it really has been used lately as a buzzword, which is really misfortunate because equity really needs to be center of so many conversations. And what that means to me is really centering people closest to the problem and knowing that they have the solution to that problem, and really balancing out community voices, saying that they are just as important as expert witnesses and attorneys and engineers, because they are living that experience day to day. And it also means that the groups that have been disadvantaged, they need more now to even be at the same level as people who've already had privilege. So it needs to be an extra spotlight on those communities. And also their voices need to be uplifted and raised. And also people just need to listen, because people have been talking, and people just need to listen and not just use it as a buzzword. But if someone comes to you and says, I have been harmed because of my racial identity, because of my zip code, really honoring what their voices are saying and push that through policy.
Yeah, because that really burned my biscuits and my grits when people talk about equity, and when they start to do equity work within their organization or in their policy, they're totally missing the mark about one, not having people at the table to do equity work, or not even inviting them, or they tokenize someone to come into a position, and then micromanage how they bring in people to do the equity work, right? And so I just wanted to get your interpretation of what does equity mean. So how do you honor Earth? Like, what does that look like to you?
For me, in my professional life, we spend most of our time working, right? And so I thought, let me do something that has an impact with environmental justice communities. My late grandmother was from an environmental justice community, and that's why I pursued environmental law and, justice. And so I think in my professional life, honoring Earth and people who inhabit Earth is really uplifting those voices and making sure that policies are not only good for the Earth, but also good for people that inhabit the Earth. In my personal life, how I honor the Earth, just really reconnecting with nature, whether that's like in my garden trying to grow cucumbers that have not grown for the past 2 years, or going on a hike with my husband, just like really centering myself in nature and realizing how small I am, even though we have impact, right? It's all inclusive, it's all encompassing on what Earth is, I think, and really just making sure you understand your part in it, I think. So really just getting outside.
I appreciate you saying that, because there's a misconception that Black people or communities of color don't get outside in nature, the nature part of the work that we do. And I think that's just a really that's a myth, and it's misleading, especially with the work that we do. I remember coming to this work initially, they said climate change is a white thing and environmentalism is a white thing. Well, we gotta, not when you have all these environmental racism things happening, and Black people, we go outside all the time, right? So I wanted to hear more though, about the work that you're doing in drinking water in the schools, because that is really a big thing, especially in Black and Brown communities. Lead in water, contaminated water in urban communities. Tell us more about your work around that.
Yeah, it was a really exciting time in my life and with the work that was so important. If we can't have clean water in schools, I think that says a lot about us as society, and where we put our priorities to make sure kids, are there to learn and not have, being affected by lead that also can then hurt their IQ. Right. And so back in 2020, when I was still a staff attorney at Great Rivers Environmental Law Center, there was some discourse in the St. Louis area about elevated lead levels in St. Louis public schools, which is a historically Black school district in the city of St. Louis. And so they started testing their water in 2016 because of what was happening in Flint with the Flint, Michigan crisis. And so when I, got out of law school, May of 2020, started as a staff attorney in September of 2020 of that year, I was really concerned with, what happened with those lead levels from 2016? Like, did they get solved? And that was also a concern of a lot of the community-based organizations that I was working with, faith-based organizations. And so it first started just as an investigation, sending FOIAs to the school district, to the state, to figure out what those lead levels were. And unfortunately, they were still elevated. And what we started realizing was this was not a unique situation to St. Louis public schools. This was happening nationally, DC public schools, Chicago public schools, in our state of Missouri, it was happening. And so we really myself and Rachel Rimmerman started the Missouri Filter First Community Coalition, which really centered a holistic approach on how we wanted to solve this issue. I had my attorney hat on. I was like, if y'all want me to sue, let's figure out who we can sue. Let's make it equitable. Like, if that's what you all want, let's do that. At first, the community wanted me just to knock doors with them, table to get the information out there. And then that turned into, well, maybe we should do something at the legislature, because this school district doesn't have money. And so why would we basically harass a school district that didn't have, a poor Black school district that didn't have money, right? Let's go find the money. Let's go find these resources. And so that turned into us writing a state bill modeled off of NRDC's model bill for Filter First. And we ran it through the Missouri legislature. It passed within 1 year. It was super exciting. It was super grassroots. Like, we didn't even have like a lobbyist, we didn't have a campaigns person. It was really just community, myself as some folks, some lawyers, some people from faith, some people from the engineering space working on this bill. And so it's really exciting. I, get news articles from my former colleagues saying, oh, another school tested today. They did find elevated lead levels, but thank God they had funding to actually remediate those lead levels. And so it got past the point of just testing. So really exciting work. Sometimes I miss it, but I also see my new role in buildings also mirroring that public health and environmental space. And that's really where I enjoy working. Because I think, like you said, in urban areas, it is about that public health aspect with the environment.
This sounds so exciting. Are there any other projects that you're like working on now that you're excited about that you'd like to tell us about? Because we are streaming live, and of course, I would love to lift up the fact that you're multifaceted. You're a lawyer doing coalition building. You're working in schools. You're doing building. You're working nonprofit. Like, is there anything you're really excited to tell us about?
Currently, there are a few things I'm working on in my new role as the building advocate at NRDC for the Midwest. And so one is a statewide bill in Illinois to help folks navigate how to do home energy repairs, help address energy burdens, weatherization projects. So figuring out how to use the federal dollars coming down from the IRA and stacking it with state dollars as well, to make sure the people who need those needed resources are first in line to receive those services. So that's a really exciting bill that I'm currently working on. I'm also working in this future of gas process in Illinois. So really re-envisioning how we think about heating our homes in Illinois. And so it'd be great to have more community voices come out to those proceedings. If you are experiencing energy burdens, like you're paying too much towards your utility bills each month, if you are concerned about your gas stove or your furnace, really just having those voices, more diverse voices in those spaces would be really exciting. And so those are the two exciting things I'm working on right now.
That does sound exciting because, getting funds from the federal government down to communities, that's huge. And everybody, if you don't know about the IRA and getting funds in the community, there's a lot of money on the table that we need to make sure that comes into our communities. So how did you get involved with the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition? I want to know what brought you to Midwest BDC.
A couple of things brought me to Midwest BDC. One, I really like that it's Midwest focused. So sometimes policies that maybe were successful on the East Coast or West Coast need to look a little bit different in the Midwest for political reasons, for climate reasons, right? There's other reasons, right? So having a space that's Midwest focused is really awesome. I'm a Midwestern, grew up in St. Louis. I'm back working in St. Louis. So meeting people in the environmental space in the Midwest is always exciting to me. And then really, I was hearing conversations around the federal working group through the Midwest BDC. And, with IRA coming down, I really wanted to be in coalition with people who are specifically focused on getting federal dollars to Midwestern states. So that's an excellent working group that you all have. And I've been engaged mostly with that working group and a little bit of the local codes. So just being in space with people from, larger greens like myself, down to people, from faith-based organizations. We had commissioners speak, at the last meeting. That was really exciting. And also just people who are showing up that don't have any affiliation to like an organization. They're just concerned community members. I think is really awesome. I think a lot of people talk about wanting that in their coalition space. And at the Midwest BDC, I feel like we have that. And sorry, I'm saying we, like, I think I'm a part. Yeah. So we have it. And I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I since I've been on staff and transitioned to the executive director role, I noticed that that's something that we bring to the table. That individuals, people, and come on, bring your friends because this is a movement, right? We're trying to eliminate fossil fuels in buildings before 2050. So I appreciate you lifting that up. And the federal policy working group, our co-leaders, James Trice in Minnesota, and Digdra, who works in Michigan, are really leading that work. And so our working groups, just FYI, are powered by our led by our leaders in collaboration with our staff person Jacob. And so I wanted to know, what do you wish people know about energy and climate justice, since this is Earth Month, and some people feel that Earth Day and Earth Month is far from climate justice, like, or in energy justice. Like, what do you want people to know about it?
People need to, I think, tap into the energy systems, tap into a lot of the work that's happening at Public Service Commission, Public Utility Commissions, where a lot of those energy choices are being made. So when you think about energy justice, to me, that means, controlling and being influential in the processes of, how energy is obtained, where energy siting projects happen, rate impacts on bills, and all of it, most of that happens at your state public utility commission. And we really need people to show up there and advocate and say, we are transitioning our houses to electrification. We are interested in that. And we need policies and to, promote that, because that's what the public is interested in. So I think having more voices show up there and, just saying this is something we're interested in. Our heating bills are currently too high from our fossil fuel gas. I've heard that there's money coming down from the federal government to help me, electrify my home. What does that mean, for in a state like Missouri? What does that mean, like in a state like Illinois? And going to those public service commissions, that's where that conversation is happening. Right. And so we need more people there. It needs to be more than just attorneys. It needs to be more than just, technical experts. We need those voices there.
Okay, so that's the call to action, because that is a real statement. We need, because we all know bills are getting really, really high. Inflation is real. We're indoors a majority of the time, especially during these winter months. And unfortunately, we never know where we're going to get weather-wise, right? So it can be cold one day, hot the next. So we just never know. And then also the call to action is to show up. Those public service commission meetings, they're supposed to regulate our utility, okay? And sometimes it depends on who's appointed or elected to that public service commission can dictate whether or not you're going to get access to clean energy, or if your bill is going to get skyrocketed because they're not really regulating the utility. So you have to show up, right? This is not just us who are involved in this movement. This is about you. Energy justice and utility justice is about you, because I don't know about you. I did not like my DTE energy bill. Yeah, I said it. DTE energy. Oh my gosh, that bill was so high. Oh my gosh, I don't even understand. I'm like, I just need to turn off the heat and say, y'all, just put on a sweater. It's springtime. Because this is ridiculous. And it's not going to get any better, right? And so you won't even know about a rate increase because they don't even publicize that. And then also going to those meetings, PUCs, y'all need to pay people to be there, right? Ain't nobody got time to take off from work during the day to drive all the way up to a meeting. Usually it's in a state capital. And I think some of them are getting better within going locally. However, you need to pay people to be there because one, y'all got the money, okay? And then two, people opinions matter. You're asking for people's opinion. They don't work for y'all. So let's be clear. That's about advancing equity if we're going to talk about it. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. Okay.
No, yeah. I mean, and I would also encourage people, you don't need to be even if it's your first time, just go. Like, say what you're feeling. Say, I have concerns about allergies. I have concerns with my energy bill. Hey, I'm trying to figure out, maybe I want to install rooftop solar. Do you all have, and they can either point you maybe into the direction, like, oh, maybe that's this agency, or, this is our purview. You don't need to be perfect to go. Just show up and say your opinion. Your opinions are valid, and it is supposed to be a public process, right? And it shouldn't just be one-sided hearing from utilities. It should be a holistic process.
I'm so glad you said that, because showing up to those meetings can be intimidating. And you have lawyers, you have us there, the technical folks, the advocates speaking all this jargon. And just honestly, just showing up to say, my bill high, I want solar, that's real. Those conversations, that needs to happen. So,
and I will say, we have quoted public testimony before, and like our written testimony that then we filed with the commission. So we had, for the People's Gas rate, rate hike last year, they had a public hearing, and people just showed up off the street and said, this is too high. I'm concerned about climate. I'm concerned about the indoor air quality. And we took some of that public testimony and put it in our written testimony and said, look, the public is here. Like, let's listen. And so it's really powerful.
I'm glad you said that. So that does matter. And she's in the state of Missouri, advocating in Illinois and other places. So you're doing something right. So I wanted to know and talk to our viewers. What are your passions? I mean, I know we're all excited about Earth Day, saving the world, saving the planet. But what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I have a lot of hobbies. And so I'm happy that you mentioned, like, people have this stigma that Black people are not in nature, right? And I am very active outside. On my bucket list, I'm trying to visit every national park in the country, right? And so I'm out there with my geeky hiking poles. I'm kayaking. If I'm not outside, I'm, watching reality TV at home. I like, or I'm reading, or I'm tending to my garden. So I have varied hobbies, but I think my passion is just really being with people, feeding off of people's energy, whether it's in the outdoors or, hosting in my home. So those are just a couple of my hobbies.
I'm glad you said that, because kayaking is my thing. Kayaking, canoeing, getting on somebody's boat, jumping in the water. I don't care what type of water it is. Okay. I'm jumping in, and I'll watch this here later, but
Exactly.
I mean, I'm so glad you said that. So I really appreciate you coming on our Earth Day Every Day podcast series for the month of April. Continue to do the work that you're doing. Make sure you take care of yourself. Self-care is really real within the work that we do. So continue to do that. And I appreciate you being a part of the coalition. And thank you so much for being on, and everyone who tuned in today. But I would like to, of course, invite everyone to our upcoming podcast series. So if you're out there listening to Madeline, please follow Madeline and NRDC and the work that they do. Continue to follow the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. So, of course, you can always sign up for our listserv and visit MidwestBuildingDecarbonization.org. We're on Twitter, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So our Instagram is new. So, go ahead and go over there and follow us. So we do have some events coming up in our next podcast series. We would love to invite you out. And if you want to just talk to Marnese or any of the staff members, please let us know and we'll put you in, right? And then tomorrow we are hosting a communications and coalition building training, right? We offer trainings to our members because we want to make sure that everyone can do this work and want to do this work and get best practices. So we're offering that training tomorrow as a resource. And then coming up, we will have a affordable housing tax credits and building decarbonization training led by Jacob Serveling, our policy and projects director, who is also an engineer by trade, so has been in this field for quite some time, and then also has been working alongside me for the last 3 years. So come on and come to our trainings, and guess what? They're free. We don't charge. Oh, free is good. And it's a really good stuff. So follow us on MidwestBuildingDecarb.org. and of course, learn about anything that you do. And membership is free as well. So come in, get to work so we can continue to work on saving the planet in the best way we know how. So thank everyone for tuning into our podcast series, and we'll see you the next time.